I'm just teasing. We're talking about the
Okay.
obligations of being Jewish. And I said, it's easy if you sleep in David. I'm teasing you, Mel. Relax.
Good morning. What is the vote? Good morning, Rabbi Green.
Good morning,
Good
Zev.
morning,
Good to
Zev.
see you in the flesh.
Yesterday morning.
Marty,
Not
do you
even-
have
Not even a guzma.
Marty?
Yesterday morning, my davening. was
Marty,
at
do you have
7
Bob's
by your
phone
house,
number?
Because I was worried.
Bob Brumberg's phone number?
Cell? My wife might, hold on.
Sorry to cause you aggravation.
No, it wasn't aggravation, it was concern.
What? I'm sorry. What was the concern?
He wasn't here yesterday. And I was worried about it.
I don't feel.
And it affected my davening negatively.
I think I should have stayed home today too. I don't feel quite.
Oh, I didn't realize that. So, the refuah, everything should be good.
You got a pencil? Hello? Hi, could you look up Bob Brumberg's cell phone number?
What a nation's chaya. I'll tell you, it's good gedav, Mordechai.
His cell phone number is 718-208-3629.
Thank you very much. You had,
718-208-3629.
One
Thank
of
you.
our compatriots said you are a tzedekes gemura. She said thank you.
I heard. All right, good. Bob still has the Staten Island number.
Yeah, well,
Brooklyn, Queens, 718. There you go.
What's wrong with it?
Nothing wrong. I was brought up on that.
when we lived on Long Island,
All right, now the question is, how do I get back onto Zoom? Okay. Good. Hold on.
you're not fasting tomorrow, are you, Sam?
I plan on fasting.
Try, only
But I'm
part-
gonna- I
put
was
on
so-
a tea kettle.
No,
No, I'm gonna-
you
I'm
need,
gonna drink.
you need to drink and you
I
need
drink
to
an ounce.
small
wait till
Your
you-
amounts,
pachas.
Yeah, probably.
small
Okay, but I would
amounts.
put a tea kettle on so you can have warm water. It's better. It's more better. And if that's not enough, if you're feeling schwach, don't be a hero.
That's
No, I plan on being in shul.
Yeah, well, you don't happen to have Ronald Reagan. He used to keep jelly beans.
And it's,
Yeah.
have jelly beans everywhere.
Yeah, so jelly beans are considered high for your sugar, number
Oh,
one.
yeah, they are.
And number two,
Smaller.
they're
than a
smaller than-
gross.
they're what?
Smaller than a
And
grown.
because they're the size, they're not considered really eating. So you should have somebody get you some jelly beans. And no, listen,
Or any other small sugar laden candy.
no, jelly beans are easy
Maybe they must-
for me,
Name.
because then, you can, what?
Nobody holds from Pas Yisrael.
Okay. I don't want to say nobody, I would say few, maybe are familiar enough with the halacha. I'm not
So why doesn't he
challenging,
make an announcement? Why doesn't he do his job?
I'm not challenging you. That's one of the reasons, remember I sent it, that halacha yomis to
Yeah,
you?
no, it's.
But notice what it said at the beginning was, it was a custom. But if it's a min,
Excuse me, if it's a minhag brought in Shulchan Aruch already, minhag Yisrael can do.
all I'm just saying, it was interesting that they started off the statement,
That it's minhag Yisrael,
yeah,
but we're not talking about, standing for Kiddush, although that's also.
all right. All right, let me start off, getting thrown off here. All right, let's start off with our,
We're up to the Gemara.
yeah,
on
we'll get to it.
8.
Okay, learning sponsors. Okay, friend, the year of learning, friends Nina Monester, Nechama Asna, Bad Yitzchak Aharon. Many friends of Stephen Vigdal, Lezech Nishmat Simcha Melech Ben Meir Leib Halevi. Friends of Marcy Kurtz, in memory of her great niece Leah Bracha, and Refuah Shlema for Marcy herself. Isaac and Evelyn Blachor, in memory of his sister Chaya Rachel Bas Isser, and a Refuah Shlema each for Isaac and for Evelyn. Friends of Leonie Meiselman, Leah Saber Bas Chanoch Zundel. A month of learning by Mel and Haran Haller, in memory of his father Avram Ben Zev, by Sam and Shifra Coleman, in memory of his mother Sarah Rachel Bas Avraham. Today being the
9th of Tishri.
okay, let me get the right book, please.
You mean the secular day?
No, I want today is the 4th. Okay, there are no individual days of learning today.
If I
Okay,
may suggest to the mission again, there's 2 of the 5 people here.
okay. All right, we're still keeping in mind Moshe Reuben ben Simatebla, Miriam Rivkas Bas Bracha, David Aaron Alevi ben Sarah, Peret Semach ben Yaakov Yitzchak. All right, man, Shema's having a Aliyah, Crank, Rafia, Velt Yeshua, Shema Tzliya, and Lechol B'nai Yisrael, good Kaben Shtia.
Time you finish the mission, it will be 20 after.
I know.
The,
All right. So. Okay, let's go back to, right, 89B4,
well, 3.
B3, is that where it is in our
Yeah.
school?
Because we're doing the Mishnah?
Yeah.
B3.
All right, we'll go back to there and then we'll pick up today's stuff. Okay. All right, again, I want to emphasize that as of Thursday morning, the daf will be on Zoom only. Okay, Ruvain is going to give it Thursday morning, Friday morning, Sunday morning, and next Wednesday only on Zoom.
Only on Zoom?
Only no, Monday is Yontif. Okay,
Yeah, so
only on
Sunday,
Zoom.
And then Thursday.
Okay, that's number one.
What's the number?
I don't have the number. The easiest thing to do, thank you. The easiest thing to do is you go in your email to where it says educational opportunities. This is how Ruvain does it, and it's the easiest thing. Okay, you click on that. You will see it lists all of the shiurim, including the daf, and it includes the Zoom link. And then you just click right on that Zoom link. It would be right after davening. It would be the normal time for Thursday morning, Friday morning, Sunday morning, and then Wednesday morning.
Everyone's going.
So
Okay.
Marty will drive you home and you'll go right on.
Okay,
You'll drive
that's
you
number
on
one.
your way.
Number two, I'm going to confirm David Cheslow should be doing the daf on Shabbos. Okay, I do not have anyone to do the daf on Yontif, on Sukkot. Okay, at least not yet. I don't think I'm going to. Two people were asked. One is away, and one did not feel comfortable.
The rabbi
Doing
can't
it.
do it?
Didn't
You asked
approach
him?
him. I didn't ask.
Ask him.
I will send him an email. Clarify.
No, ask him in person.
Okay. All right. So that we'll see.
The rabbi does not want to do the job.
I understand, but for 3 days.
No,
Not
it
even
would
for
only
one
be
day.
2 days. It would only be 2 days, the 2 days of Yom Tov. I've got
All
David
right,
Chesler
so
doing,
tell
I
him he
will
has
see.
to do it.
I
He's
will
got a
see.
job.
I will see. Okay, so I wanted to clarify that. Okay? All right. Also, I don't have anyone yet to do Mishnah Yomit or the
Do
Tehillim.
that too.
All
Even
right,
if he
we'll
can't
see.
learn, he can do that.
We'll see. Okay, we're going to start with the Mishnah. Again, Shnei Gittin. Okay, we're going to see a few scenes, few scenarios here. Number one, Shnei Gittin Ushtei Ketubos. Okay, the woman is married to the same man. Okay, and from this man, she has 2 Gittin and 2 Ketubos. What happens? Says the Mishnah, Gova Shtei Ketubot. She is able to gain the money from 2 Ketubos.
Both. do.
Okay, all right. Next situation. Shtei Ketubos v'get echad. She has 2 Ketubos and 1 get. Or, as we go on, Ketuba u'shnei gittin. 1 Ketuba and 2 gittin. Okay, again, all the same man. Okay, third example. O Ketuba v'get umeta. Okay, so again, in those 3, in that situation, Eina gova ele Ketuba achad. She does not again acquire except the money. In this case, we're talking for the Ketuba of 1 Ketuba. And the Mishnah finishes, Shehamigaresh et ishto vehechzira, that the person who divorces his wife and takes her back, almanat Ketuba rishona machzira. He does so by taking her back based on the original or the earlier Ketuba. That
Under
was the
normal
Mishnah.
circumstances where he
Right.
hasn't paid yet.
Okay, well, we would assume that that's the case, right? Now, we get to our Gemara, and the Gemara is going to tell us regarding the situation of 2 ketubas and 1 get. That's what it's focusing on. Okay, Ibai Bahai, Ibai, I'm sorry, Ibai Bahai Gavia, Ibai Bahai Gavia. If she chooses, she can, if she needs or wants, she can use this one. If she needs or wants, she can use this one.
If it's a greater
Those
amount
the
of
ksuba. Now, the Gemara is concerned here with the following underlying issue, and this is why I'm suggesting it addresses this example first. Namely, one might be that she could use the larger amount.
which she's
she-
allowed to.
Okay, she could go use whichever ksuba has the larger amount. The second issue that the Gemara underlying here, okay, is that she could use the one with the earlier date and therefore could also collect property that was already sold, okay, in the interim. So this is why the Gemara raises this, I'm suggesting, because of these two possible situations, asks this question, okay? So the Gemara then continues. Lema tahave tiyufta de Rav Nachman amar Shmuel. So let us say then that this is a proof text against Rav Nachman in the name of Shmuel. The Amar Rav Nachman amar Shmuel, who says in the name of, it says Rav Nachman in the name of Shmuel, Ushnei shtarot, when we have two documents, hayotzin bazeh achar zeh, one coming after the other, what happens? Bitel sheni et harishon. According to this view, okay, the second document nullifies what was in the first document. And the Gemara goes on, V'lav itmar Allah. But wasn't it said about this approach? I'm going to use that. Amar Rav Papa, that Rav Papa says, Umodeh Rav Nachman. And Rav Nachman acknowledges the Osif Beidikva, that we're one, okay, to even add, I'm going to say a minor detail, okay? And the example the Gemara gives is, let's say it's sale of land and it was dealing with adding a single tree, a palm tree, okay? The Tosefet Katve, that it was added not to nullify, but it adds on, it's an addition, okay? That's what is being written there. Hachanami, here too. Okay, so that's the implication, that challenges the view of Rav Nachman and Rav Shmuel, that it nullifies, it simply adds it, okay? Right, so what happens? B'da osif la, okay? Hachanami b'da osif la, here too, it would add on for her.
Where it's a larger amount.
Okay, that's, so Tanu Rabbanan, this is a new brighter. Hotzia get uktuba umeta. So now we jump to that example, okay, where we say, right, she presents the get, okay, and the ktuba umeta, all right, and the question of death, right?
Now we have to look at the dates on all three documents.
Okay, so you have number one, document is a get. Number two, you have a document that's a ksuba. And number three, you have some sort of proof, okay?
A death certificate.
Okay, that the man died. And we're going to assume for the moment that it is a written document that
It's been
tells
certified.
that
Yeah,
tells the date of the death. Okay, all right. So what happens? Okay, so now we're on Sadi Amud Aleph, the top of the Amud, right? Im, and I'm going to read into the word here, the date of, okay, get, kodem l'ktuba. If the date of the get is before the date of the ksuba, govesh de ktubot. She is able then to
like both.
earn, to pick up the money from both ksubas. Ksuva kodemet laget. If the date of the ksuba is before the date of the divorce document, eino gava el ksuba achat. She only acquires the money from a single ksuba.
Because we
Why?
that's the-
As the Gemara is going to tell us, Shehamigaresh et ishto vehechzira almanat ktuba harishona hechzira. Why? Because we're saying this principle that when he divorces her and he takes her back, it is done based on the original, the earlier ksuba.
So if she was going to get more money, he would have dated it after the get.
Okay, all right. In other words, it would have been the second ksuba would have had a different date.
A different date and a different amount, a larger
Okay.
amount.
All
like
right.
the decal.
Okay, so what happens? Matnitin, I get our new Mishnah. Katan. Okay, so this is a male minor child. Okay, that becomes married.
By the-
Shehasio Aviv, that was married off by his father. Okay, Ktubata Kayemet. Okay, the wife's Ktuba is valid.
Now that they're both grown-ups.
Okay, what? we're going to get to that. So, okay, so what are we talking about? They've reached now a point of majority age. She'almanat kain kaima, and that therefore on this basis, okay, it is valid. Okay,
Because he slept with her after he became a major, so
the assumption is that they would have had relations. Hi, Bob. Okay, the assumption is that after they've both reached majority age, okay, that they did have some sort of relations, and that validates, okay, the whole situation.
makes the marriage a good.
Okay, all right. Now, what goes on? Ger shenit gaira ishto imo. What about the following, says our Mishnah? A male convert, along with whom his wife converted with him as well. Tubata kayemet, her ksuba is valid. Sha'al manat kain kaima. Okay, because it's based on that it is valid. In other words, that now that they're both Jewish and they've continued to live together,
The old ksuba,
and therefore the old ksuba is considered a valid document.
which is interesting that Goyim had ksubas too.
Well, the assumption.
You talk about the tree nuts, that's basically
Okay.
what the ksuba is.
You could say it that way. I was going to say, in any case, marriage had to be registered,
Yeah,
okay,
but this
with the
is talking
authority.
about a fiscal obligation on the part of the male to the female upon the dissolution of
Dissolution of the marriage.
And here you see, at least in Jewish areas, non-Jews had a ksuba too.
They had that concept. All
Yeah,
right.
I mean
And
I found that very
but
enlightening.
that could have been also because of the non-Jewish authorities as well. We
But
don't
whoever
know.
it was,
Whatever it is, the fact is,
and you might want to argue, well, they were going to become Jewish, maybe that's why, but then they wouldn't have married yet,
right?
So
Okay,
it's
let's go on.
It's just fascinating.
Okay, Amar Rav Huna, says Rav Huna, Lo Shanu Ela Mana Matayim. We only taught that in regards to what we called before the Ikar, the basic minimum, which was the 100 or the 200. Aval Tosefet Einla. But he claims, Rav Huna, that she does not get any additional monies. Okay? V'Rav Yehuda Amar, says Rav Yehuda Afilu Tosefet Yeshla. Even an additional amount. Okay, the amount beyond the minimum. Okay, Meitive, but we'll challenge this with the following. Chidshu, okay, some wanted to translate chidshu as added, or I like introduced an additional amount. Okay, no, tell it. She takes it away. She receives it. Ma shechidshu, what she received, what was added. Chidshu and lo chidshu lo. If they added, in other words, if they introduced an additional amount, yes. If they didn't, no.
Meaning that if the first ksuba was 600, you'd still only get 2.
Okay.
Which is weird.
If the first ketubah was 6.
Yeah, what we're talking about is that little boy
right
signed a ksuba. So we assume that by continuing to live with her when he reaches majority, that he wishes to have a halachic marriage.
Yeah.
So now the problem is
how much is
that ksuba he signed
was
signed
only
by a cotton and is meaningless. And so we're trying to cope with protecting the woman when the ksuba is not really a valid
ksuba.
That's the issue.
Could be. Right? Okay. Ema, I might say, afma shechidshu, even what was added. Right? So that's the point. All right?
Meaning that the whole document is honored.
Right, that the document and the whole amount. Vaha lo tani hachi, but that was not taught. Right? Chidshu, when we say that the added introduced an additional amount, no telet ma shechidshu. Okay, that she takes what was added. So that's the tosefet. That was, okay, point. Lo chidshu, if they did not add an additional amount.
after they grew up.
Okay, betula gova matayim. Then she gets only the ikar, right? What we said, betula gova matayim va'almana mana. Okay, that as a virgin, she would get 200, and as a almana mana. Okay,
Or a,
all right. And what happens to Yufta de Rav Yehuda? And this is a proof text against Rav Yehuda, namely Rav Yehuda matnitin ate ute. Rav Yehuda made an error in learning this text. What was it? Hu savar ketubata kayemet akula miltakai. He was under the impression that the ketubah was going to include the total, the entire amount.
even though it was written
Okay.
by a cut.
Kai velohi, and that's not the case. Ikar ketubah kai. No, it based really on the what we said, the basic minimum
which
of
was
what
the
would be the
Rabbanan.
original amount that was designated at that time, right? Hadrana lach hakotev leishto. Okay, and so we finish that parak. Okay, our new Gemara, okay, our new Mishnah and new Gemara is going to get into a whole another variety of area, and I'm going to call this quickly inheritance law. Okay,
And the
All right.
priorities of
Okay.
debts.
all right, and basically in that question of inheritance, remember we've always said that the Gemara is informing us that when there are multiple demands on the estate, I'm going to phrase it that way, okay, that the woman, okay, and certain heirs should be receiving the money first ahead of a creditor,
Other
okay? All right, so what happens? All right, and we're going to see the Gemara is going to present to us an interesting scenario. Mi shahaya nasui shtei nashim. A man was married to two women, umet, and he dies. Okay, says the Mishnah. Harishona kodemet l'shniya. Wife number one precedes wife number two. Okay, implying that, all right, that two basically ksubas come out of that estate.
and there's
One goes to first wife, one goes to second wife, right? Okay. V'yoshe harishona, and the heirs of the first wife, kodmin liyoshe shniya, they precede the heirs of the second wife. Okay. Next situation. Now,
excuse me, that's important because the Kasuba has wording that my sons get, the girls' sons get their money before it's equally distributed.
okay, well,
So if those first sons take it all. 'cause
all
they
right, all
get
right, yeah. Okay. I didn't want to jump that far ahead. Okay. All right. So
That's
what
what it
happens?
means.
No, I understand that. We'll get to that. Right? Nasat harishona. Let's assume now we're going to have a slightly different spin on the situation. Nasat harishona. He married one first wife, umeta, and she dies. Okay. Nasashnia. Now he remarries. Okay, and he marries a second wife. Umate who? And he dies. Okay, what happens? Shnia v'yorsheha kodmin liyorshe harishona. Then the widow, the second wife who's the widow, and her heirs have preference to the heirs of the first wife. Okay, so the Mishnah is trying to clarify the order of inheritance, number one, and precedence here. Okay, now we might have the following situation as Michael was leading into. Okay, what about the fact that since the first wife died when he was still alive, do those heirs inherit her ksuba? Okay, that's part. And in addition to inheriting her ksuba, don't they also get an appropriate general portion of the estate? The same way the heirs of the second wife, who is still alive, will also get a portion
No,
of the
because the
estate.
man is alive, so they don't get the estate yet.
No, it says umate who in that second
Oh, you're
situation.
talking, okay.
Okay, that's one. So we have a number of issues that deal with who gets what money when. Okay, that's the point.
Well stated.
Okay, so let's go on. Now, it says our Gemara, Midikatani, since it was taught in our Mishnah, Harishona Kodemet Lishniya, that the first wife has precedence over the second wife, Velo Katani, but it was not taught, Harishona Yesh La Vahashniya En La, that the first wife does receive ksuba money, but the second wife does not. Miklal, from this we would infer the following: the ikadma shni'a v'tafsa, that were the second wife to chop property, okay, or
Which
money,
she's really not entitled to yet.
okay, right, but she does, but it's implying that she has a claim to that property,
She jumps
some
the gun.
property, and she jumps the gun, so to speak. Lo mafkinan na mina. We don't remove it from her. We can't take it from her, because even though she rushed to catch her claim, she still has a valid claim. Okay? Shmamina. That's what we infer from this language. Okay? That's saying one has preference over the other, but it doesn't tell us one gets and the other doesn't get. Okay? In like manner, the Gemara wants us to understand. Baal Chov, okay? Me'uchar, a later creditor, right? Shekadam v'gava, who jumped ahead and took his portion, let's say, right? To pay back the debt that was owed him. Masha gava, what he has
And took his
taken, he's taken. Le'olam emalach. For all time, I would say to you as follows: Masha gava, lo gava. What he took, he did not acquire, did not gain. Umay kodemet. And what then do we mean by saying that one has preference over the other? Legamre katani. Totally. That's what's taught. Okay? Kiditnan. As taught elsewhere in another Mishnah.
Meaning you can't chop ahead.
Okay? The Baal Chov can't chop ahead, right? Okay, as taught in Baba Basra. Ben Kodem Labat. We say there that normally a son has preference over the daughter. Ika da Amre. And there are others who teach that, say it as the follows. Midelo katani. Since it's not taught as follows. Im kadma shni'a v'tafsa. If the latter one, okay, or second one, seized what, all right? Ein motzein miyada. In other words, if the daughter seized a portion, we do not take it from her, right? Miklau, and we infer from this, the ikadma shni'a v'tafsa, that if the,
So we're going back to wives here. It's not the
Okay.
daughter.
okay,
If the second wife
if the
grabs
second,
it, she keeps it.
okay, took it and seized it, okay, mafkinan mine.
We should take it.
We should take it away from them. Shmamina. And that's what we learn, namely, Baal Chov Me'uchar, Shekadam V'gava Ma Shegava, Lo Gava. That the creditor who hastened, all right, or came forward earlier and took possession, seized what they took, they did not acquire. Le'olam Emalach. Therefore, I would say as
So
follows.
at this point, we have two conflicting
Conflicting
positions.
statements. does that Baal Chov get to keep it? What they seized in it by jumping ahead or not?
And the wife too.
Okay,
In other words, they're saying that the first wife has to get paid completely before anyone gets anything.
That's the
that
that's
would
one side.
that
of
would
the
seem
story.
to be the issue. That case, even if the second wife chopped some on her ahead of her, that would seem to be the case. Masha gava gava. So the Gemara continues. Aidi detana shni'ah v'yosheha could mean v'yosheha rishona. Okay, since the fact that it teaches that the second and her heirs are ahead of the heirs of the first. In other words, doesn't legally acquire the inheritance, acquire it, because the question is it's an inheritance and not a debt. Okay, and maybe that's the situation that we're talking about. So let's go to Amud Beis now. Okay, and we find the following. Okay. All right, so now Tana, it was taught, however, Nami Harishona Kodemet Lishniya, that the first one, in this case, the wife, first wife, clearly takes precedence over the second. In other words, implying that if the second seizes property, okay, it cannot be taken from her. Okay, so now we go on. Nasa et harishona, when he married the first woman, all right, shmamina tlat. From here we might learn three different statements, right? First of all, shmamina, the first one, echat b'chayav, ve'echat b'moto. Okay, that in one case it was during his life, right? Ve'echat b'moto. Okay, and the second, okay,
Meaning that
from the death. All right. So what happens here? Okay. And now I have okay, yesh. And here we have I'm trying to figure out my notes here. Okay. So heirs from the first wife inherit her ksuba in addition to the portion of the estate. Yesh lehen ketubat banin dichrin. Okay. That we're saying that they then inherit not only a regular portion of the estate, but her ksuba as well, in addition.
Comes off the top.
Okay, velo chayshinan le'insuye, and therefore we do not need to suspect in terms of any quarreling.
But we're not concerned. We don't care if they quarrel. They have a claim off the top.
Okay, mimai, based on what? Midikatani shni'ah. V'yosheha could mean v'yoshei rishona, since our Mishnah also taught that the second wife and her heirs receive in advance of the heirs of the first wife. Mikdam hu dekadme, okay, that these come before the others that are earlier. Ha'ika shakli, and here this is the case that they receive it. Okay. So that's the first example.
But if it's enough money for everybody,
everybody then
everybody gets what he or she is entitled to.
Right. Everybody would get. Okay. Ushmamina, the second item. What do we learn? Ktuba ne'eseit motar lechaverta. That maybe in this case, we're going to say that the amount of the ksuba is the I want to say surplus or extra.
Yeah, because that comes off the top.
Right, to the to what's along with it. All right. Mimai, based on what? Midalokatani, because it's not taught as follows. Im yesh sham mutar dinar, if it's so long as there is at least a dinar surplus, right? Okay, that's the ushmamina. Okay, and that's what we learned from that. Okay, so there has to be at least a certain minimum amount above the basic. Okay, going on. The next one, ushmamina, we learn what? Ktubat banin dichri.
We did not, in other Mishnayos, it says you get the whole thing as long as there's a dinar left for the heirs. But this Mishnah leaves that out. So the ksuba gets collected even if it exhausts the estate and leaves nothing for the heirs, based on that this Mishnah does not include
I didn't
the
say
qualification
wasn't
of a dinar extra.
okay. That wasn't. That says
That's
it
how
depends.
it's learned.
It
That's-
depends if there is the extra dinar.
No, in other Mishnayos.
Im yesh mutar
Yeah,
dinar.
but it says it was not taught that.
Okay, yeah,
So
right. The fact that since it's
that it
not
was left
taught that,
out
that it
means
depends that were there extra money there. If there's not extra money there, then it doesn't work.
wrong. It's the other way around.
No.
Since the Mishnah does
No, then
not,
she only gets the they get the
they get
ksuba.
the whole ksuba or most of the ksuba if it runs out of money, and everybody else gets left in the
They don't get what they should theoretically claim. Ushmamina, third, tubat banin dichrin lo tarfa mimishabde. And that the third example is that the ksuba, okay, of the male sons, okay, in other words, to inherit the mother's ksuba, all right, that in that case, lo, right, lo tarfa mimisha, it's not taken from the movable property.
no.
Mishabde. Okay, with lien property, mortgage
If
property.
the property was sold,
They can't go back and
buy.
get it from the
From the buyer.
existing owners. That's the point. The isalka da'atan, because were we to think tarfa mishabde, that it's possible that they could go back and claim and take that property from that third party who were the purchasers, litu b'nei rishona uletrafinhu lebnei shnia. Okay, let us say that the heirs from the first wife should come and be able to take it from the heirs of the second one. Matkifla Rav Ashi. And Rav Ashi challenges this series of three principles, right? He's going to go along, I believe, with one, but challenge two of them. Okay, what did he do? Mimai, based on what? Dilmal olam emalach. Perhaps I would say to you as follows: Echad b'chayav be'echad b'moto. If in one case it was regarding his life, in one case in death, ein lahen ktubat benin dichrin. That we don't say that there is a ksubas benin dichrin there. Okay. In other words, after the second wife receives her ksuba, all the heirs may be inherit equally. All right. Umay could mean. So what then do we mean when we say takes precedence? Lanachala katani. We're talking that it talks about the entire estate, okay, and not regarding the ksuba. Okay. V'chitema. And if you want to say as follows, Yoshei Harishana Lamali. What are we talking about in terms of the heirs of the first wife? Okay. Aide Ditana Shnia Vyorsha, since our Mishnah taught regarding the second wife and her heirs, Tana Nami Vyorshe Harishona. It also, on a point of style of the language, taught regarding the heirs of the first wife. Udike amart, and when you say ktuba ne'aset motar lechaverta, if you're going to deal with the second example, okay, second assumption, that the ktuba was made the surplus to the what was along with it, dilma le'olam emalach, perhaps I might say to you as follows. So this is all Rav Ashi, right? Ein ktuba ne'aset motar lechaverta. That we do not say that a ksuba can become surplus to what was along with it. Vahacha hu de'ika motar dina. And maybe here we do have a situation where there is
requires to be
something in addition, okay, even as minimal as a single dinar. ve'echad b'chayav, ve'echad b'moto. And when we said, in one case in his life, and another regarding his death, Tanaihi, this is a machloket Tanaim. The Tanya, as it was taught elsewhere, namely in a following brisa, Metu echat b'chayav ve'echat b'moto. Okay, they died, one during his lifetime and one after he died. Ben Nanas Omer, that one part of the machloket was Ben Nanas, and he says, Yecholin b'nei harishona lomar lebnei hashniya, that the heirs of the first wife can say to the heirs of the second wife as follows. Okay, b'nei ba'alat chov atem taluk tubat imchem utzau, that they may say, since you are the
You have a
heirs similar to, I'm going to phrase it that way, to a creditor, that's what you're like. Okay, take the amount of money for from what was your mother's ksuba and get out of here. Okay, in other words, you don't get any of the estate whatsoever. Okay, so that was his argument. Rabbi Akiva Omer, says Rabbi Akiva, Kfar kaftsa nachala milifnei b'nei harishona. Maybe it's a situation, he says, where the state, okay, has already been jumped on, so to speak, extracted from the heirs of the first wife. V'nafla lifnei b'nei harshniya. And it's been acquired, I'm going to use that word, by the heirs of the second wife. My love bahakamiflagay. Isn't this then what they're arguing about? The Mar Savar, this is between Rabbi Akiva and Ben Nanas. The Mar Savar, that one master is of the opinion, Echad b'chayav be'echad b'moto, that when one wife dies during his lifetime and the other wife dies after he died, yesh lehen ktubat banim dichrin, that there is a situation here of ksuba male sons. Umar savar, and the other master holds, echad b'chayav ve'echad b'moto, when one wife dies during his lifetime and the other after his death, ein lehen ktubat banim dichrin. There is no application of banin dechrin, ktubat b'nei dechrin, applying here. Amar Rava, says Rava says, Ashkachitinhu l'Rabanan, the Bei Rav Yadve v'Ka'amri. He says, I once found that the rabbis of the Academy of Rav were sitting around and learning and discussing this issue. The Kuli Alma echad b'chayav echad b'moto, that everybody was in agreement that when it was a situation of one first wife died during his life and the second one died after he died, yesh lahen ktubat banin dechrin, that we do apply the principle of ktubat banin dechrin, that the
on the first set of children,
that the heirs do receive the ketubah of the wife, of their mother, right? Vahacha, and here in this case, b'ketubah ne'eset motar lechaverta, and we say that the ketubah becomes the excess, the surplus.
It's more than the other one.
Than the other one. V'hu hadin leba'al chov. And this also applies in regards to a creditor, kemiflagay. And that's what they're arguing about. Namely, mar savar k'tuba ne'eset motar lechaverta, that one master holds that the ketubah becomes surplus to the other monies. V'hu hadin leba'al chov. And this also applies to a creditor. Umar savar ein k'tuba ne'eset motar lechaverta. And the other master holds that ketubah does not apply as the excess to the other. V'hu hadin lebal chov. And this also applies to a creditor. Va'amina laho ana. And I would say to them as follows. Bebal chov, kuli alma lo plige dahave mutar. Okay, and regarding the creditor, everybody doesn't argue in regard to the fact that there's an excess there.
There must be.
Okay, in other words, don't we say that in this case, there has to be enough money in the estate, not only to pay the ksubas as appropriate, but even then to pay the Baal Chov,
Something to the, no,
then
no,
to
it's
the
the other way
extreme.
around.
No, you've got to
And
have
any
plenty.
time that the claimant, whether it be the wife or a Baal Chov, has a claim of a debt greater than
Yes.
the total value of
It's
the
got to be
estate,
extra money
he
than what's
cannot
there.
get it all. He has to leave
No.
at least a dinar for the family to divvy up.
Okay, I would have phrased it differently. Okay, but I would have phrased it the opposite direction. Okay. All right. Keep pligi. Where are they arguing? Biksuba. That's where they're
Only in the
arguing.
case of a ksuba,
Okay,
not
in
a
terms
Baal
of the
Chov.
amount of money vis-a-vis the ksuba. Okay. Now what happens? Mat kifla Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef challenged this. Ihachi, if that's the case. Rabbi Akiva Omer, when Rabbi Akiva says, Kfar kafza nachla, when he implied that the individual already jumped ahead
Of
to
the
claim
first
the
debt.
estate, right? Im yesh motar dinar mebayele. It should have spelled out in the text that says that's only in a situation where there is a surplus
They
of
leave
at least a
something for the first
dinar.
kids to get.
Okay, that's what it should have said. Okay, Ela Amar Rav Yosef, but rather Rav Yosef was saying, Be'achat b'chayav, be'achat b'moto kamiflagei. That when it's a situation of when one wife dies during his life and the other died after his death, that's what they're really arguing about.
Because
Va-
now the commissioner said that the second family
Okay,
has
who
Kedina.
gets money there in terms of the size of the estate and vis-a-vis who gets ksuba money? Okay, so in other words, we're still dealing with do heirs of each woman get money or not? Right. So here it says vahani t'na'ai, and these two, namely Ben Nanas and Rabbi Akiva, ki hai t'nai. They are like the following, right? Titania, as taught elsewhere in another bright. Nasa terishona umeta. He married his first wife, and she dies. Nasata shni'ah umetu. He marries a second wife,
She gets
and then he
killed.
dies. What happens? Ba'in baneha shel zo la'achar mita. Along come the sons of this
Wife
one, which means wife number two. Okay? La'achar mita, after her death. V'not link to bat iman. They come and claim and take the ksuba money from their
That
as would have
gone
been
to
for their mother. Rabbi Shimon Omer. Rabbi Shimon, however, says, Im yesh motar dinar, if there is at least a certain extra amount, in other words, enough money in the estate, elu notlin ktubat iman, these take the ktuba for their mother,
First.
ve'elu notlim ktubat iman, and these take the ktuba money for their mother. In
That's
other words,
the first one.
each set of heirs then would be able to take
Claim their
the
parents'
ktuba's
estate
money, okay, their mother's ksuba money,
before divvying up
Okay.
the rest of the estate.
and then they would deal with the rest of the estate. Okay, that's the point.
But if
Ve'im
it's not
lav,
enough,
and were that not the case, shcholkin b'shaver, then they must take the entire estate and divide it up equally.
And then this blinds by a shaila about the Bachor. I think it means the Bachor still gets a double portion. Because that's min hatayr.
Well, but I didn't,
No,
I don't know.
The money is all the father's. The question is who gets priority
In the
among sets
inheritance.
of
The
children
heirs.
to take
in the
first.
inheritance.
Because each has a kasuba they want to take first.
But he was talking about the pursuit to Imam. That's
The mother's
Right.
kasuba.
Okay. So you've got, look at it this,
No,
you've got,
her property is
Okay.
same alone.
all right, you've got a large estate. And you've got four possible claims on behalf of the heirs. Okay? Heirs of the first wife, okay, have two claims. They have a claim in their regards to their mother's ksuba, and they have a claim in regards to the rest of the
Well,
estate.
they have three. They have the nichsei malug.
Okay, well, that's,
Right.
I'm not even counting that right now.
Right.
Then the heirs of the second wife also have a claim, perhaps regarding their mother's ksuba,
And whatever.
and
their-
also a part of the estate. Okay, I'm not even touching that. That's a whole separate. The Gemara doesn't even mention that. That's why I'm not even bringing it in. Okay, all right. So what happens? Okay, now let's go on.
So the Gemara Mishnah had said that in the example we just discussed of the second wife surviving her husband,
Yeah,
that they get first dibs on their mother's.
based on the Mishnah,
That's right.
because it said she and her heirs
Have
are
first
ahead
priority.
of the
Of the
heirs
first
of the
wife.
first wife. That was the language in the Mishnah.
So if there's 500 in the estate, heirs number 2 collect their 200 for which is their mother's kasuba.
That's assuming she was a virgin. Whatever it is. Okay,
And then the heirs number 1 get their 200.
again,
And
assuming that
then the 4 of them or 18 of them divvy up the
the rest of the,
remaining 100.
right.
But if there's only 399 in the whole estate, the machlaikas is do heirs number 2 get first, or and then do you have to divide it up all to everybody and forget the kasuba? And that's what he is saying.
That's what
Reb
it's-
Shimon is saying.
He's saying
it's
Cholkim
less than-
b'Shaveh.
If there's
that
less
point.
than 401,
Right, if there's no,
then you divvy it all
then you
up
just take the total amount.
and divvy it.
Okay, so then you won't have 4 expenditures, you'd only have 2. That's the point. Okay,
Right.
so, all right, so let's go on. My love bahakemiflige, isn't this what they're arguing about? Demar savar echad b'chayav ve'echad b'moto. That one is of the opinion, married one during his life and one, okay,
She died first.
and then, right, then the second afterwards, right? After his death. Yesh lahen ktubat banin dichrin, that there is still the concept, the application of ktubat banin dichrin,
On number 1.
Okay. all right? Umar savar, echat b'chayav ve'echat b'moto, and the others of the opinion in that situation of marrying when he's alive, and then the second one dies after he dies. Ein lahen ktubat banin dichrin. There is no example of banin dichrin, and then, and
number
that's the
1.
case. Only the sons of the living widow would collect the ketubah. Lo,
So the
no, says the Gemara. Okay? The kuli alma echad b'chayav v'echad b'moto yesh lehen ktubat banin dichrin. No, says the Gemara. Okay, all agree that in that kind of a situation, there is the application of ktubat banin dichrin. I'll just go over a tiny bit.
Vahacha b'dinar.
Vahacha b'dinar mikarke'e k'miflagei.
And I don't
And
question
here
this,
they're
if
arguing
there's-
is what is the
is there any
surplus?
surplus?
Is there a surplus in the real estate of the of the deceased in order to provide all of the necessary funds.
So the takeaway from this is that the minute your mother dies, you chop her kasuba. You don't give him a minute's time to marry another woman, so that you can get cut out.
All right.
That's the issue. I mean, it's like, why don't everybody knows these Gemaras? Why don't they hasten to collect before the second marriage?
They don't. All right, Bob?
It's so terrible.
Okay, take care.
Families are broken up because.
Are you?
Gemar Chesimet Tov.
Mark Hasimatov.